Welcome, y'all. I am so excited to be launching my podcast. This has been something I've always wanted to do, something I've always wanted to hear about. And I'm so excited that it is finally here. It is finally here. So why Island Money 365? Well, I am an islander and I migrated here from the beautiful island of Jamaica at the age of 10. And growing up here in the US and seeing other immigrants come in, I realized that everyone was going through similar, if not the same struggles. And it baffled my mind. I was like, why were we not telling one another what we have learned? What is going on? Why do we keep everything to ourselves? Why is it a secret? And if you're an islander listening to this podcast, you know how we are, right? We keep everything to ourselves. But and my grandmother will say, Petra-Ann, you're too fast, or enough, you're too enough. And you know what? She's probably right. But it does not make sense to me, right? Another family, another person should not come and stumble over the same rock stone that you came earlier and bucked your toe upon, right? It doesn't make sense. I want someone to tell me, look, my sister, you're coming. So let me tell you, there's a rock right there. When you come off the plane or when you land here, there's a big old rock stone. So don't buck your toe upon it, right? But that's not what's happening. So I've always wondered, okay, was it something that was unique to my community, or is this happening all over? And I was like, you know what? I'm going to create a podcast and interview other people from the islands, other immigrants like myself, and not just the immigrants that just came over, that transition, here, but also their offspring, their kids, and just to hear their stories, their experience being a child of an immigrant. So I think that'll be a great dynamic to hear that as well, because I know I have some friends who are first generation and they might as well be living the same life, right? What are some of the struggles they face or see their parents face and navigate? How do they feel about being raised in the States? And do they feel like they are missing anything culturally as a result? Also, what are some of the differences they see or experience having island parents from those of their peers? I'm very curious because I know for me, I was living in two worlds. At home, I was in Jamaica, the food we cook, the way we talk, how the home was decorated, y'all. The rules, the saying. My mom have a lot of sayings, and an islander know your parents have a lot of sayings. So you know what I'm talking about. We're walking two different worlds. And when I walk out the door going to school, I'm in a different reality. And that's just the fact of it. Also, transitioning here, one of the biggest adjustments that I had to make was the food, right? That was, I guess, the biggest reality shift. And that was the most evident, was the food, which was one of the biggest changes for me coming to the States. I'm looking at French fries and hamburgers, pizza, mac and cheese. And I was like, I'm not seeing the boiled dumplings, cooked yam, cooked green banana, sweet potato and brown stew chicken, or even rice and peas. I'm like looking at this food like, what is this? And keep in mind, this was the early 90s. So the franchises such as Burger King and Pizza Hut, KFC was not widely spread across the island like it is today in Jamaica. And I live in the country, right? I live in the country. So my dad cooked all our meals. I was that kid, go to school, come home for lunch, eat lunch, go back to school. That was me because I was in the country. As my husband liked to say, which is very disrespectful, by the way. My husband liked to say, we come from Baka Bush, which is not true, right? It's just that even most people don't even know that it exists in Jamaica. That's all. So now, though, I go visit my family and I have access to everything I have here, even Starbucks. But when I first encountered these foods, they were not a staple. As a matter of fact, I did not eat pizza for the first 2 years I was here. My mom tried to introduce us to these foods. She brought us to McDonald's. I would look at her like, are you crazy? Where's our beef patty, cocoa bread, and box juice? Come to think of it, it was probably a very challenging time for my mom because we were just not, we just wasn't giving the food a chance. We want our food. And I finally tried pizza at school, at a school party or something like that. And I do not remember all the details, but I remember thinking, not not bad. Then after that, I would only eat the cheese, right? I wouldn't eat anything else. So, kids. I wanted my cook food. What can I say? My mom had to cook all the time for us. My sister and I would not eat. But, I should probably get my mom's point of view of this because I see a lot of families migrate and they're with our families, right? We bring our kids over. And now it might not be as a challenge it was back in the day, as I said, Jamaica have all the things that is here. There's Burger King, Pizza Hut, everything. So it's not going to be that big of a shock, maybe. But some things, it's still a cultural shock in certain of the foods. Depends on where you come from and the different outlets that you come from, right? But yeah, that's probably something I should sit down and get my mom point of view on one of these days. So yes, it took us some time to transition and assimilate with the food, with the culture. There were some parts that were bumpy. Some parts were easier than others. But nevertheless, we made it. We came out on the other side. So parents, if you're going through this right now, don't worry, you're going to come out on the other side. I'm sure my mom can testify to that. So you will too. So if you're struggling and your kids are struggling right now, I am here to tell you it will get better. So I wanted to create this podcast because I want to hear other immigrant story. How did they overcome? How did you persevere? What are some of the challenges they face, and did they become successful in their own right? Do they feel like they fulfill the vision they had for themselves? And, for the children, did they fulfill the vision their parents had for them? It depends on what age you are. Or a vision they have for themselves. So just curious. So the why the 365. So that's why the Island Money came about, because I want to know how we're making our money and how we're doing to propel ourselves forward, starting from scratch. But 365 is, well, as islanders, as immigrants, we're always working, always thriving, working multiple jobs to provide for our families. We never stop. I look at my friends and family and I feel like we go all 365 days of the year. So welcome. I just want to welcome you to Island Money 365. Thank you. Thank you so much for being here. And I'm so happy that you decided to join me on this wonderful journey as I share these amazing stories along with the resources that can hopefully help make your transition abroad a little bit easier. I look forward to you joining me on our next episode. Until next time, remember, keep your money irate.